Hello there everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for joining me today. Now today's video is another should you pull video for Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, and today we're going to be discussing the Lost Chapter banner for Prompto, which will include Prompto himself, a realization for his EX, Freya will come along as well with her brand new EX weapon and a rework, and also King is going to toddle along for the ride as well. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about basically what to expect from the event itself, what bosses there are, how to beat them, what characters work, how the characters work after their reworks and EX realizations come about, and basically whether you should pull on this banner or not, and it's going to be a tough one to call because there's a lot of very strong banners this month, then stay tuned and keep on watching. As always guys, don't forget to check out all of the social media links in the description box below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. Twitch this week, I'm really trying my hardest to push to see if I can get that Twitch partner status, so if you are around on any of the times that you can see just here, I stream every time a new event comes out on Opera Omnia. On Sundays I do my offline mode playthrough where actually we're going to decide to go with Arciella for grabbing her 35 when she comes around next week, because she's really good with it without her EX anyway. And obviously just come along and support the channel and just come and chill and chat with me and everyone else in the chat as well. It would be lovely to have you. And of course every time I release a video I also shout out one of my patrons at random from Patreon so that I can give my thanks and appreciation. And today that person is going to be Atoy Project, so thank you ever so much for your support. Brand new Patreon as well, so thank you very much indeed. Don't forget to check out all of the different websites there are for Opera Omnia, so that's Dissidia Info, Dissidia DB and the Tombury Troop, and of course don't forget to check out all of the other social media and content creators there are out there for the game as well. So first things first, let's talk about Prompto's Lost Chapter itself and the final event that you'll get through, which will be the Chaos. Now you'll have two bosses that you'll have to fight, two waves at least that you'll have to fight, one of which contains the Astaroth enemies that we fought a long while ago, and they're actually basically there to just reinforce the fact that this boss is magic resistant, so you don't want to be bringing magic users to this particular event because they're resistant to it and they'll counter any bravery magic damage that they take. So even if they have even a slight amount of magic in their kit, I would suggest against bringing them. So characters like Rosa, most of her kit is some of their kit is ranged, some of their kit is magic. I would avoid them altogether if you can. But basically they're just going to do like occasional debuffs, like they do have some nasty ones, particularly Curse, which halves your max HP, and therefore Lena is going to be brilliant for this, as she has been for the last couple of events as well. So DE11, Lena's going to work wonders here for multiple reasons that I'll get into in a moment. And then after the Astaroths are finished, you're going to have the Sergeant Imps to deal with. Now the Sergeant Imps, now if you remember Prompto's event the first time it came around, the main thing when it comes to the Sergeant Imps is that they boost one another with really strong buffs and shields and things like that, and they perform 100% AoE HP attacks. That's their main thing. So the thing that you want to focus on is, as I do with every sort of event, focus on the characters that are on the banner and therefore break down why they're on that banner and why they're specialized for this particular event, and therefore suggest alternatives. Now King is just a damage dealer, so honestly you could replace him with any damage dealer here. However, if you've got room for a damage dealer that can also dispel, then they'll do very well here. Somebody like Faris or Balthea I actually really appreciate in this particular event, but Aranea will work really well here, Vayne will work really well here, Jack will work really well here, even Sync will work very well here because she has a bit of debuffing and launching and things like that in her kit. Sync is actually pretty good for this. So if you've got access to a damage dealer like that, that's that bit of the banner sorted. Freya, her main thing when it comes to this event is the fact that she can present Last Stand to your party. She is preparing you for the fact that the damage that these guys deal unchecked is actually very high. And their major attack that they use is a Brave Gain AoE Brave attack followed by an 100% AoE HP attack. So if you're not careful, these guys will just one-shot your party. Unless, of course, you have Freya. But if you don't want to pull for Freya, then you can prevent this in many different ways. If you have healing in your kit in general, it will help you to no end, as long as you have ways of mitigating HP damage. Snow is a fantastic tank for this particular fight because none of his kit is magic, unlike Zac, who is Apocalypse is magic-based. Because he can heal, he can heal the party quite nicely. He wards all single target attacks to himself. He reduces HP damage that you take, so that big AoE damage isn't going to be quite as scary. Alternatively to Snow, you could bring Porum along for much the same reason. You'll have the HP overflow, you'll have the HP damage mitigation, you'll have support and defensive support in that. But if you're going to bring Porum, I'd say that perhaps Lena was the one that you'd replace with her. just so that you can keep your damage up as much as you can. As I say, the debuff evasion that Lena brings is actually quite helpful as well, so Ignis is also an option to prevent like the confuse that you get from wave 2, the curse that you get from wave 1. There's some like little debuffs that are handy to avoid if you are able to, so Ignis and Lena are probably my most recommended supports. If you have Ramza will make things a lot easier for you because he batteries, his turn count is always amazing. He's just providing a really good offensive support. So if you have Lena and Ramza together, then your support are pretty much set in stone. You know, they're going to do extremely well. Galoof is actually not bad for this either because the vast majority, if not all, of the enemy's attacks are physical. And while it won't help too much with the AoE HP damage, so you want to make sure you still have healing in your kit, the fact that he's evasive means that that's less bravery damage that you're going to be taking, totaling to less HP damage that you're going to be taking, so it will help out. Jack will help here for much the same reason because his evasive kit will basically prevent some of the damage that you would have been taking. And then past that, like other supports that you could bring Penelo along because she has healing in her kit. She's got buffs that are really nice that will hopefully push off things like Confuse. But you've got a lot of options here, but you basically want to make sure that you bring along a tank, a healer, and some sort of large-scale damage dealer, because Prompto's role in this is basically as a tank. Like, his Star Shell locks enemies onto him and he has an evasion buff. So that's basically what you want to try and replicate if you can with other party members. So now we come to the portion of the video where we actually talk about the characters themselves, what the game that's new, whether it benefits them, and therefore what I think of the characters in general. And King just comes with 15 and 35 and doesn't come with anything new. So the first character we're going to talk about is going to be Freya. Now Freya gets a slight rework in her kit here, and it's actually very needed for her, because while Freya was like the original 35 CP goddess during the era of EXs, she's starting to show her age a little bit. But when you use Reese's Wind, it's now got bravery attacks attached to it, which actually helps it a great deal. So, and it also makes jump slightly stronger. So her brave and HP attack plus, which are jump and high jump, are now actually a fair bit better. Like high jump now is a party battery, and it has two hits on its bravery attack before the HP attack, which is really nice. And then you've got like more overflow on things. I mean, Dragon's Breath has always had a lot of overflow, and it's good for just dealing splash damage, dealing a decent amount of damage, and then therefore just making sure you're keeping up with keeping the Dragon's Crest buff that she gives herself, because what that does is increases her attack and speed and makes her stats faster each time every time she uses Dragon Breath. It's just a really strong kit. It's just useful, and she gets HP regen off of Rice's Wind, which is really nice. That she is party wide. So you've basically, her main shtick is a damage dealer, kind of like Leo, where she's a damage dealer that has healing in her kit as well. So if you're using like a pure brave support like Ramza, Freya is actually quite a nice sort of pair up with him. However, the problem I have with Freya, even after her EX, is that other characters kind of just do her job better than she does. She's certainly not a bad character. Like, she's actually a very good character, but the characters that we have coming up kind of do the support role a lot better while still doing a lot of damage. So while Freya's damage is slightly higher on the whole, her support capabilities just aren't quite as good as some of the other ones out there. That being said, she does actually have some really nice party auras, like her C50 is a party aura, her C68 is a party aura, her C65 ability is a healing ability that increases Brave Overflow, so that's really nice as well. And her EX actually does have a nice kind of unique nuance to it that other characters don't really have. So now we have a look at Partisan, which is Freya's EX weapon, and it's actually a really pretty cool weapon, to be honest. Like, Cherry Blossom is a very pretty attack, first of all, and I'm very pleased with that. I would actually really like to get this weapon, but resources pending. I'll get to that when we get to the should you pull part of the video. But it's a 6-hit Brave HP attack with split damage, and it also, the main thing with this weapon is that it grants a framed buff called Soothing Petals, which basically increases stats slightly of your party, but it also grants Last Stand to your whole party, which means that as long as they're above 50% HP, they basically can't die. So that's actually a really nice thing. The issue I take with this ability in particular is that we have two other characters coming up over the next few weeks that do a similar kind of thing, probably better. Because Arciela and Kefka have HP silence in their kits. So, in theory, why would you want to take HP damage to the point where you're at 1 if you didn't have to take any in the first place, is my mentality. However, there are some enemies that are immune to debuffs, so their HP silence might not work on those characters, whereas Freya's is a buff, so it's something that you can at least always depend on, apart from if you're against something that dispels it. But then if you put a book onto it, it's actually pretty solid with just a book as well. So it's a 6-hit group Brave HP attack inflicted twice, which means that the damage is actually much, much better. And it also increases the damage dealt by her HP and Brave Attack Plus, which is lovely. And then she gets more stats from 1 ingot. She starts with her buff and she gets a longer duration of Soothing Petals, which basically makes it just indefinite, like you're always going to have a party-wide last stand, so that's actually really pleasant. And bear in mind that all of these effects that she gets from like Reese's Wind and Soothing Petals, they're all aura based, so they're not actually like impeding on your buff count all that much either. And then with 3 ingots, you're basically doing a lot more damage with it, and you also get a party HP regen effect added to Soothing Petals, so that's quite nice. And then you also get a party battery when you use Cherry Blossom. So I think that honestly, I think Freya's weapon is very good. I do think that Freya is a nice character. But that's my thing. I think she's a nice character to have. And I think that there are other characters this month that are more important to go for. But if you were pulling on this banner, I'd say that Freya was the better prize of the two rather than Prompto. So now we move on to Prompto. Now Prompto's role is a bit of an odd one because he's one of these characters like Caius and a couple of other characters that I've spoken about before, where their kit is a little bit kind of all over the place. But Prompto's kit actually is quite good, and the rework that he gets is actually quite significant. So Starshell gets basically like duration ups on both the lock and the evasion up, which basically makes him a semi-viable evasion tank in a similar vein to Edge. It's not nearly as strong as Edge's capabilities as an evasion tank, but it does help and it does present a new role for him because it was originally like 1 turn of each and it didn't last very long, so you couldn't really rely on it. It now also does a 3-hit Brave HP attack on the target, which can go up to 150%. So Starshell goes from 0 to hero pretty quickly. Like, I think that it's actually a relatively decent attack at this point. And then Piercer does splash damage now. It also gets 5 hits instead of 3. It's a much stronger attack, and he becomes more of an AoE damage dealer, and we'll get to my reasoning as to why I think that's actually slightly a bit of an issue for him in a little while. But when he uses Overkill, it also grants bravery to the party, which is really good because if you're going to use a brave attack, because Prompto is mostly a support character, so realistically your brave attack plus should be doing something for the party. And then Crack Shot now does splash damage as well and is slightly stronger. But the thing with Prompto is that he actually relies on there being multiple enemies on the other side of the board, particularly with his EX. But his party buffs and auras are nice, but they're not huge. So you get like little bits and pieces from his his C65 only works for himself. He gets little bits and pieces from his Life of the Party buff, his Royal Buddy buff that he gets from his EX. They're all nice little extras that you get, but at no point do I consider Prompto to be a mandatory pull or a necessary character. If you're a big fan of his, then he is usable, certainly, and his EX does actually get quite a lot stronger. So Trigger Happy originally was just a range Brave HP attack, like dealt randomly, like the bravery attacks would be dealt randomly to each character. And then, like, that's kind of nice, and it's a fast recast rate, which is always helpful, but it didn't really do an awful lot of damage. So you'd get the King's Buddy buff, which allows you to get sort of extra stats for your entire party by max bravery, attack, and he raises his own speed, which is useful, but it's all, like, small little things. So when you get ingots and a book into him, the reason I have a little bit of an issue with Prompto's kit is, like I said, he's reliant on there being lots of enemies on the other side, because when you use Trigger Happy, the brave hits become AoE. The single target damage is still random, but the brave hits become AoE. So realistically, his damage dealt by Trigger Happy is going to be based on how many enemies there are on the board. If you're against a singular enemy, even if you're dealing 9999 every hit, you're only going to be dealing 9999 every hit, no more than that, because damage can't currently break the damage limit. If there's 3 enemies, then you're going to be dealing 3 times that much. So in terms of net damage, you either get double or triple the amount of damage out of Trigger Happy depending on how many enemies there are. And if there's only 1, then his damage is like okay, and the potency on Trigger Happy isn't all that strong. on it, like, so if you're against a singular enemy, I'm not the biggest fan of Prompto. If you're against 3 enemies, he's actually really quite good. But I don't like the fact that he's very, very selective on when he's useful. 1 and 2 out of 3 for the ingots. It's, you know, you start with your buffs, you start with some or you get some stat buffs, it's nothing particularly special. And then 3 out of 3, he does actually get Overkill plus, Crack Shot plus, Brave Attack plus plus, and HP Attack plus plus. And he does actually get a large potency buff on Trigger Happy, which normally I don't focus all that much on because it's something that, like most EX weapons get when they get their ingots and stuff, they get a potency boost on the EX skill. But for Prompto, I actually think it's quite important that you get that. And then Overkill plus does a 4-hit Brave HP attack that inflicts 70% attack down for 2 turns, which is kind of nice. And then the Crack Shot for 2 turns just does 50% Brave Overflow instead of 20%. Overkill plus is still just a Brave attack though. It's not of HP attack. He doesn't, like, it still like increases party bravery and stuff like that and inflicts this really nice debuff. But realistically, you're only going to really use this like just before your opponent's turn, and yeah, the attack down is relevant for that, but there are other characters that do an equally good job of this with a much stronger kit generally, personally anyway. And then while you've got Life of the Party, which you should always have live because it's the buff that he starts with, it's the buff that he gets from using his skills, he's always going to have this live. And then so even if he's not got Overkill and Crack Shot from using his skills, he's still got a relatively decent Brave Attack and HP attack. I just think that Prompto's kit, like Caius's kit is nice, Prompto's kit is nice, but it's so all over the place. Like, there's a little bit of buff, there's a little bit of tank, there's a little bit of damage dealing, there's a little bit of debuffing. He's not really sure like where he's going, so like it's difficult to slot him into a party when you've got characters that are specialists in each field. Like, you want a support character, you go for Lena, you go for Arciella, you go for Hope or Rosa or something like that, where they are a very, very defined role. You want a damage dealer, you're not going to be going for Prompto because his damage isn't as good as a lot of other characters. You want a tank, you're going to go for an actual tank like Snow or Zac or Galoof or Edge. Like, they're all specialists, whereas I think Prompto's kit is just a little bit trying to grab at everything, like jack of all trades, master of none, and those aren't the characters that I tend to pull for. So now we come to the video and we ask the big question, should you pull for Prompto and Freya? Now, honestly, this is probably one of the easier banners that I've come across in the last few weeks, because I'm quite honestly, as much as Freya is a big love of mine, I really love Freya's character in FF9, I'm going to say no here. The reason for that is because there are so many better banners this month than this one. This is probably the weakest banner we have this month, or certainly one of them, and that's not to say that it's a really weak banner. Are Freya and Prompto bad characters? No. Are you going to struggle to find room for them in a party if you really wanted to? No. Are you going to put ingots into these two when you have other characters that you're going to want them for this month? So Kais, Arciella, Alphino. I mean, some people won't want Fujin, but Fujin's an option as well. Lena, Kefka, Cloud of Darkness, if they turn up at the end of the month? No. They both work relatively well at 0 out of 3. Like, Prompto gets the AoE hits on Trigger Happy. Freya gets the damage boost on Cherry Blossom and on her jump and high jump, which is really nice. If you wanted these characters, they can work at 0 out of 3. They're much better at 3 out of 3. Like, Prompto in particular, I think definitely really wants ingots, but you can make them work without them. But, so if you really like these characters, I know Prompto is a fan favourite, I know Freya is a fan favourite, and resisting the urge to pull for favourites is always going to be difficult, but I think that because there are just much stronger characters to come in the next few weeks, and I don't think you'll have a problem like going through Prompto's Lost Chapter if you don't have any of the characters particularly on this banner, I'm going to go out of my way and just say no on this one. So that's going to be all for today's Should You Pull video. I hope that it's helped you guys make a decision on whether you're going to pull on Prompto and Freya. I think that honestly, despite the fact that I've said no on this banner, there's going to be a fair few people out there that pull on this banner anyway. And let me know in the comments below if you think that that's something that you're going to do, if you're going to pull for Prompto or for Freya, or if you're just pulling to increase your EX collection. I know I've done that in the past, Lord knows it. And let me know what teams you plan to use for the event itself. Don't forget to come and check me out on Twitch tomorrow morning if you want to see me clear the event, and I won't be using Prompto or Freya to do it, I'm sure, unless like I get bored, throw a few tickets and get really, really lucky. And then I'll also be doing our Ciella's event later on in the week as well. I do stream and do videos for every event that comes through on Opera Omnia. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell for notifications of any future videos I have coming up. And that's going to be it from me. So take care, everybody, and I'll see you all soon. Bye now.